I'm Anne Boyd Rioux, and I'm at ArtSpace Gites because I'm a writer and I'm here to write. What I like about France, I first came to France 2 summers ago before the pandemic, and I just fell in love with it. I love the pace of life. I love that all the stores close for lunch, and everybody goes to the restaurants or goes home and has a big meal with their families. There was something about the people and the way they live that really got me to start reevaluating my own life and how I live. And I think as a writer, too, it's really an inspiring place because so many expats, particularly Brits and Americans, have, and lots of them women, have come to France and found so much inspiration and just really done some of their best work here. So I'm inspired by that sort of, I'm inspired by that as well. I'm writing a book about Kay Boyle. So I am an academic. I'm an English professor at the University of New Orleans, and I've written 3 books, and I've edited 4 other books. And my books have been about women writers, American women writers. And the writer that I'm writing about now lived in France for many, many years. Her name is Kay Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E. She was very famous in the 20th century. She was very well known. She was a writer for the New Yorker. She was a member of the Lost Generation in Paris in the 1920s. She was friends with Joyce and Beckett. Marcel Duchamp was a close friend the rest of her life. And she has been forgotten, I think, in ways that are really unfortunate and unfair. And there are lots of reasons for that I don't have to go into. But I really strongly feel that she's a writer worth recovering. And it's important to me that my work, helps bring her to light again. I first discovered Kay Boyle because, like I said, even professors of American literature don't necessarily know who she is. I first discovered her in the summer of 2017. I was teaching in Austria, and I wanted to create a course in the short story in Europe, and I wanted to include American expats. And I had some writers for the 19th century, and for the 20th century, I had Hemingway and Fitzgerald, but I wanted a female writer as well. And I stumbled upon these amazing stories she wrote about the rise of fascism in Austria, and also about Germany right after the war, and many really interesting stories set in France. One of them she won an O. Henry Award for, the best story of the year, and it's called Defeat, and it's about the fall of France to the Germans. And it's just a remarkable story. Reading her stories is like walking back in time and really putting you in the place and in people's heads and the real experiences, because she drew from life so much in her own writing. She had a sort of journalistic, documentarian sort of approach, but at the same time, her works are very artistically complicated. She was a modernist writer who was a real artist as well. Well, as a writer, what appeals to me about France is, I think, the history of all of the expats who've come here. There's no sort of coincidence that I'm writing a book about Kay Boyle, who lived in France for so many years. I was looking for a woman writer who had been in Europe and lived in France. And she really brought me to France, because it was because of her that I came and taught in France in 2019 and just fell in love with it. And I think as a writer, you have to unplug in a way that is just extremely difficult back home in the States in particular. I've been living a very hectic life for 20 years as an English professor, 20 plus. And I felt myself unwinding and unplugging here. And my mind just had room to think in a way that it didn't back home. I was observing things more closely. It's like all of my senses were awakened, right? Everything that I saw was so beautiful, and the food was so good. And then I was in Provence, and the lavender, my God, the lavender was just, it smelled amazing. So I felt really alive so that meant something to me personally, but I think as a writer, that's exactly what you need, is to have your senses awakened in that way. My very first impression was just love. I mean, it's a beautiful little corner of France, and it really is almost just a corner, but it's small, but it is not sleepy. There's so much life here. I love sitting out in the garden and hearing people walk by just outside the hedge and hearing them speak French and not really knowing what they're saying at all, but it's like music. It's beautiful to see how people interact with each other here. I mean, people are coming to the l'épicerie all the time and running into each other. And, there's, when you're sitting out in the front here, you can hear them because it's right next door and you can see them. And there's children running around. I had a little boy ran up to me and asked me something, which I wish I'd understood. But people you get a sense of what a real community this is and how much life there is here, even though things move slowly here. It's just a wonderful, beautiful place. It's kind of the most amazing writing experience that I've had. I haven't done a lot of retreats, but this is definitely the most special one that I've had. And it's just such an incredible gift. There's just nothing like it. It's something I've wanted to do for an extremely long time, and I cannot think of a better place to do it. Do I think it's important for writers to travel? Yes, in capital letters. I teach students who are interested in literature, but many of them are writers, a lot of them creative writers, and I'm always telling them, you have to get out. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and there is nothing more humbling than being in a foreign country and not knowing the language very well. So my first order of business now is to learn French. But I'm really curious about the ways that travel opens us up and shows us parts of ourselves that we didn't know before. And of course, we're seeing, things. It's like everything is new, everything is interesting, everything's different, from small things to big things. And noticing those differences, of course, makes you notice your home more, but you start to see yourself a little bit differently, and your writing is going to be changed forever by it. How do I feel about leaving now? I'm really sad. I don't want to leave. I feel like this is a place where you could just really, really stay for a long time, maybe live here. It's just, I definitely will be taking back with me some ideas of how I want to live my life and what I want out of my life. And that's just an invaluable gift, I think.